Hello there, whiskey, spirits, wine, maybe other types of food lovers. Welcome to my first whiskey review. I'm Thomas, and I'm kind of getting started in the world of whiskey. I got interested in whiskey about 2 or 3 months ago, I think in November it was. And there was a lot more to whiskey and other premium spirits than I had anticipated. Um, Obviously, everybody knows the typical J&B whiskey or Bacardi rum, but there is a lot more very, very good product out there that is lesser known. Especially to the younger public, maybe, and to the public that's just not really interested into it. Now, there's so much to do, there's so much to see, there's so much to taste and try and smell, and it's sometimes hard to know where to start or where to begin or what to do next. And I'm going to try and do some whiskey reviews and possibly some other spirits in the future as well. Both aimed at beginners and more experienced whiskey drinkers, to share my thoughts on the whiskey and possibly from a little bit of a different viewpoint. I know there's a lot of people on YouTube like Ralphie, Thumbs Up Ralphie, who know a whole lot about whiskey. But sometimes it can be a little bit overwhelming. Now, as my first whiskey, I have chosen this one. This is the Glenlivet 12-year-old. Now, as I got started into whiskey, I wanted to drink some whiskey we had here at the house. And the only thing we had was J&B. And I drank that neat. So for the beginner, that means without any water, without any ice, without Coke as well. Should have done it with Coke, but I drank that neat, and I'm not gonna say I enjoyed it a hell of a lot, but it was something different. It was something new. So I went to the supermarket and I picked up the Glenlivet. Now I picked up the Glenlivet because I wanted to try a whiskey that was fairly soft, fairly smooth, and definitely didn't want to try a peated whiskey as my first whiskey, for instance. So a lot of people recommended either the Glenfiddich or the Glenlivet 12-year-old. I went with the Glenlivet. So Glenlivet is one of the older distilleries in Scotland. It's in Speyside, and its main bottlings are the 12-year-old, the 15-year-old, the 18-year-old, and they have some older ones as well. And they produce a heck of a lot of whiskey in a year. They're owned by Pernod Ricard, so some of the whiskey goes into some blends like Chivas Regal. Anyways, enough talking. Let's taste this whiskey. I love the sound of the cork popping off. The bottle's almost empty, so yeah, it's one of the last glasses I can pour. I'm pouring into a Glencairn glass here. I like this quite a lot for tasting purposes. It has a good shape. I also have a cognac glass, and that works quite well. Before we get started, this is from a big distillery, as I said. And unfortunately, it's not a very crafty presentation. It's a, amber-colored whiskey. But there is caramel in it, so E150, which gives it a darker color and makes it seem a little bit more matured. And it's also chill filtered, so there wouldn't be any haziness or cloudiness when people would put a little bit of water in it. Now, I'm gonna spin it around a little bit. Really nice whiskey. And when you smell it, it's very, very sweet. Tropical fruit comes out a lot. Some mango. I'm getting some mango. A lot of vanilla. A lot of honey. When you get a little further, you start getting the oak from the barrel is in there as well. And maybe like a little bit of flower-ish. Collection of wild flowers, but that's really more in the bag. Now, on to taste. Taste-wise, the sweetness is in there with the very first contact. It's very sweet, but it quickly gets drowned away by a lot of malt flavors, a little bit of cereal in there as well. Quite short finish, bitter. Again, the malt, the oak is in there. Quite short to medium finish. It's not extremely long. Now, we're gonna add some water, and as I said, I had to learn this all as well. So, again, thank you, Ralphie, for your trusty measuring device. A teaspoon of water in there. Now, the water opens the whiskey up a little bit, but I'm not putting in a lot. 1 teaspoon in this one. It's already on 40%. So if you would put too much water in it, it would just drown the whiskey, and it really wouldn't be good anymore. Now, with the water in there, it opens up a little. It's less of that dense sweetiness you had. You get a little bit more of a citrus odor. A little bit of lemon maybe in there. It's fresher as well. It feels a lot fresher. And there's some nuts in there, some almonds or something like that. Now, taste-wise, interesting. So it seems a little lighter on the palate. There's more vanilla when you taste it. More vanilla on the palate. Yeah, definitely vanilla. And the wood, the oak is in there as well. Especially in the finish, there's a lot of wood. And kind of leaves a little bit of dryness on the tongue. But the rest of the mouth is still nice and oily. So, quite a pleasant finish. I think this would be a very good whiskey for beginners, since it was my first whiskey. And I'm a beginner and I'm still enjoying and drinking whiskey. Because it's very light, it's fresh, it's fruity, it's nothing overly complex, it's nothing overly heavy, like a strong peated whiskey like an Ardbeg or like a Willem, or even not as strong as a cherry bomb, like I recently had a Glendronach cask strength batch 1. That was a cherry bomb, very good, but a cherry bomb. So, yeah, very light, very sweet whiskey. I would definitely recommend it for beginners. And I actually think there's not a lot of things that you can do wrong with this whiskey, really. If you have to give whiskey to somebody, or you have to order whiskey at a pub or something, and you don't know what to choose, you're a little bit afraid to go for the heavier stuff. There's not a lot of stuff that can go wrong with a Glenlivet. I definitely would give it my 2 thumbs up, and I would advise every whiskey lover out there to at least try it once. It's definitely not the best whiskey in the world. I've had better. I've had more expensive whiskey, so that's one thing. But it's very good. So, yeah. Cheers.